Welcome to Hey Ivan, a channel where people ask tech questions. Today's question is one that I got asked a lot in 2020. How do I host a Zoom meeting? What follows is my attempt to provide a complete answer to this question. Leave a comment to let me know if I miss anything. In addition to my answer, I'll be sharing 10 pro tips at various points throughout this video. See if you can spot them all, and drop a comment with any other pro tips you'd like to share. Heads up, this video will be a bit longer than my recent uploads, so I'm including a table of contents to help you jump exactly to the section you want to see. You can find links to each section in this video's description. If you learned something new along the way, click like. Before we jump in, I'll be making a few assumptions about your use of Zoom. I'll be assuming that you have installed a Zoom app on Windows, Mac OS, or your mobile device, have a Zoom account, and that you understand the kind of Zoom license you have: Pro, Basic, Business, Zoom United Business, or Enterprise. Leave a comment if you'd like me to make a video about the different kinds of Zoom accounts. One last thing, while it's possible for you to not have a Zoom account and be granted host permissions after a meeting starts, I'll not be discussing any of that here. All right, let's get into it. Before you can host a meeting, you'll need to create it. There are two ways to do that. You can create an instant meeting, or you can schedule a meeting that will take place at some point in the future. Let's see how to do that in the Zoom app. Creating an instant meeting is pretty simple. Open the Zoom app, then in the Home section, click the orange New Meeting button. A new meeting starts with your default option selected. In the Windows or Mac app, before you start an instant meeting, you can click the arrow next to New Meeting and choose whether your instant meeting will begin with your video on and whether your meeting will use your personal meeting ID, PMI. Zoom also allows you to schedule a meeting that will take place at some point in the future. In the app, click Schedule. In the dialog box that appears, you can set a topic, which is the name of your meeting, and if you have a paid Zoom account, the meeting name as well as the attendees will appear on a report you might run. Set a date and time for your meeting to occur, along with a time zone. You can check recurring or repeat to reuse this meeting information on a regular basis. For example, if you have a weekly team meeting, selecting this option might make sense. Next, you can tell Zoom to automatically generate a meeting ID for your meeting or to use an unchanging personal meeting ID. I'd recommend using Generate Automatically as a security measure. You know, keep the Zoom bombers guessing. You probably already know this, but when Zoom creates a meeting link for you, that link includes the meeting ID, so your participants almost never need to know what it is to join your meeting. All they do is click the link. In the security section, you may be able to choose whether your meeting requires a random passcode for participants to join. I recommend leaving this option on too. As with the meeting ID, the meeting passcode, a scrambled version of it actually, is included as part of the meeting link too. So your meeting participants will almost never need to know it. They can just click the meeting link you send them. You can also choose whether to enable a waiting room. Turning this on means that participants will have to wait until you, the host, or a co-host you elect, let them in. A waiting room is useful if you want your presenters to have a few minutes to talk before letting everyone else join the meeting. In the video section, you can decide whether you or other meeting hosts can join the meeting with your camera already turned on. You can also decide the same thing for your participants. In the audio section, you can decide which options will be available to you and your participants during the meeting: telephone, computer, or both. Important note: the telephone dial-in option isn't available with a free Zoom account. The calendar section lets you tell Zoom what kind of calendar you use on your computer. When you save your meeting, Zoom will try to open your calendar app and create an appointment with the details you specify here. Pro tip 1. Zoom offers a variety of extensions and plugins to help you connect Zoom to your calendar app. These add-ons allow you to create calendar meetings the way you normally do, by starting in your calendar app. Then with a couple of extra clicks, you can also add a Zoom link. No need to go to the Zoom app directly. In the advanced options section, you can decide whether participants can join anytime or before the host. This is similar to the waiting room. The waiting room keeps participants waiting until the host lets them in, but this option lets participants join the meeting only when the host shows up. Mute participants upon entry, it's kind of self-explanatory. The only authenticated users can join option, when checked, means that each participant must have a Zoom account. In this way, Zoom kind of knows who the participants are. It's an added degree of security. Without this option checked, anyone with the link can join your Zoom meeting. In my time using Zoom, I haven't used this option at all. The automatically record meeting on local computer, that option's pretty straightforward. Depending on the license you have, you may also see alternative hosts, which allows you to designate another Zoom user as a host who can lead the meeting in the event that you aren't available. The alternative host must also have a paid Zoom account. After you've completed your Zoom meeting details, click Save to schedule the meeting. You can also host and schedule meetings using Zoom's website, which they call a web portal. Pro tip number 2, check for app updates. Before you start your meeting, have your Zoom app check for an update. In fact, tell your participants to check for Zoom app updates before they join your next meeting. Some of Zoom's newest features may require a newer version of the Zoom app. For example, not too long ago, Zoom introduced a feature that allowed participants to move themselves from breakout room to breakout room on their own. But if their app was too old, they wouldn't be able to do it and would need a host to put them in the appropriate breakout room instead. In December of 2020, Zoom released 12 updates. To see details about the latest version of the Zoom apps, go to support.zoom.us and search for New Updates. From there, you can access a list of their release notes. Okay, starting a meeting. To start an instant meeting, click the orange New Meeting button. To start a scheduled meeting, on the Home tab, click Start next to a meeting listed on the right. Or click the Meetings tab, then select the meeting you want to start and click Start. You can also start meetings from your Zoom portal page or by clicking the Zoom link in your calendar. Let's start this Zoom overview meeting. When you start a meeting, you also join it. Zoom will ask you to join audio. Select an audio option. Pro tip 3, don't join audio from multiple devices in the same place. For example, if you're in your home office hosting a Zoom meeting using your computer and you choose to also join the meeting with your iPhone, don't allow your iPhone to join the Zoom audio. If you do, the speaker from your computer will play into your iPhone's mic and lead to echo. Muting the microphone isn't enough to fix the problem. You would have to also turn down the iPhone speaker. Or, better yet, choose to leave the audio from the iPhone altogether so that only your computer is connected. You might want to check out a video I recently published titled, "What are the best audio settings for Zoom?" I'll put a link in this video's description. Now that we've started this meeting, let's take a tour through the meeting controls on a computer. Many of these controls will also be available on a smartphone or tablet when hosting Zooms. Just tap the screen once to show the controls. Pro tip number 4, always show meeting controls. Depending on your settings, Zoom may hide your meeting controls after a few seconds of keyboard or mouse inactivity. In the main Zoom window, click the settings gear icon, then check always show meeting controls. Okay, starting at the left, mute. Click this option to mute or unmute your audio. Click the arrow to the right of mute to see more audio options, including the ability to select a different microphone if you have one, or a different speaker. You can also test your speaker and microphone, adjust audio settings, or leave Zoom audio altogether. Next, start or stop video. Click this button to turn your camera on or off. If your device doesn't have a camera, then this button will be grayed out. Click the arrow to the right of this button to select a different camera if you have one, choose a virtual background or video filter, or to adjust your video settings. Pro tip number 5, keyboard shortcuts. Use keyboard shortcuts or hotkeys to access frequent Zoom functions like mute and unmute, or start and stop video, change views, and more. Zoom offers extensive support for keyboard shortcuts. See this page on their website that runs down the complete list. You can find a link to this page in this video's description. Next, security. Click this button to adjust security options for this meeting. Lock meeting prevents others from joining the meeting, even if they have the link and know the meeting ID and passcode. Enable waiting rooms turns on the waiting room for new arrivals. Those who are already in the meeting will remain unless you choose to put them in the waiting room too. Hide profile pictures. This suppresses any Zoom profile pictures that participants might have set on their own accounts, which can be especially useful if you're having meetings with people outside of your organization and are unsure whether profile pictures might become a distraction, if you know what I mean. Allow participants to. You can choose whether participants can share screens, chat, rename themselves, unmute themselves, or start video. The Suspend Participants Activities option is kind of like a panic button for your Zoom meeting. It pauses the meeting. Clicking it will end all video, audio, in-meeting chats, annotations, screen sharing, recording, and breakout rooms. The host or co-host will be asked if they'd like to report a user or share additional information. The user they report will be removed from the Zoom meeting. Pro tip 6. Double-click to toggle full screen. At any time, you can double-click the Zoom window to toggle full screen on and off. Next, participants. Click this button to open the participants panel, which is where you'll find an option to invite people to this meeting and copy the meeting link. Additionally, you'll find an option to mute all participants and more meeting controls, which includes the ability to mute all participants upon entry, play a sound that only you can hear when people join or leave the meeting, and several of the participant security options we saw just a moment ago. Next, chat. Click this button to open the chat panel. As the host, you can control whether participants can chat and with whom. Next, share screen. Click this button to share a screen with all participants. You'll be able to select an entire screen, a specific window, a specific application, or whiteboard. Pro tip number 7. You can choose to share sound and optimize for video clip, which can allow you to share something like a YouTube video or PowerPoint presentation with audio during your meeting. Click the arrow to the right of this button to adjust how screen sharing works in this meeting. By default, only one participant can share at a time. However, you can allow multiple participants to share at once, which is something that I've never needed. You can also set advanced sharing options for this meeting. Pro tip number 8. You can share an iPhone or iPad screen in Zoom wirelessly. If you have an iPhone or iPad on the same network as your computer, you may be able to share it right from Zoom without having to connect your phone or tablet to Zoom first. Click Share Screen, then select iPhone, iPad. Zoom may require you to install a plugin. To see a different way to share your iPhone, check out a short 50-second video I published called, "Can I share my iPhone screen in Zoom?" See the link in the description. Next, polling, which is a feature available for paid Zoom accounts. By default, you won't see polling until you log into the Zoom web interface and turn it on for your account. Once you enable it, then you can add it to a scheduled meeting or to your personal meeting room from the Zoom web interface. How? Log into your Zoom account at www.zoom.us, click Meetings, and then click on your meeting's name in the list of upcoming meetings. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, and in the Polls section, click Add. Polls allow you to ask questions of your attendees. You can allow poll responses to be anonymous, but you must create polls and add poll questions before you start a meeting. Each poll question can allow for just a single answer or for multiple answers, kind of like a check all that applies kind of question. To launch a poll, click Polling, then Launch Poll. Allow time for your participants to respond, then click End Poll. You can choose to share the results with the participants, and if you relaunch the poll, only the last poll results will be saved in your report data. Next, record. As the meeting host, you can record the meeting. Depending on your settings, when you click Record, you may have a choice between recording to your local computer or recording to the cloud. You can pause and unpause the recording during the meeting, or start and stop it at any time. If you record to your local computer after the end of your meeting, Zoom will convert the video file and save it to your Documents folder in a folder named Zoom. You can also find shortcuts to previously recorded meetings in the Zoom app in the Meetings section under the Recorded tab. Your Zoom recording will have a layout similar to the one you used when hosting your meeting. Next, breakout rooms. Use breakout rooms to split your meeting into a collection of smaller rooms where your participants can have sub-meetings. For example, a meeting with 100 participants could be split into 10 breakout rooms with 10 participants each, which could facilitate more personalized or more intimate discussions. As the host, you can choose to create breakout rooms and randomly assign participants to them. You can also assign participants to rooms manually, or you can let them choose which room they want to go to on their own. You can also set how long breakout rooms remain open before participants are put back into the main room, and you can decide whether participants are able to leave the breakout room on their own and return to the main room at any time. After you open your breakout rooms, you, as the host, can jump back and forth between any of them. Point your mouse at a breakout room name, then click Join. If you don't see a breakout room button, then either you aren't the host of the meeting, or you need to log into the Zoom web portal and enable breakout rooms in your account. Next, reactions. You and your participants can use non-verbal reactions to display emojis. Each reaction appears for 5 seconds and vanishes on its own. Reactions include items like clapping hands, thumbs up, heart, and more. We've talked about all the meeting controls. Now, let's take a few moments to talk about 2 views available to you and to your meeting participants. Hint, there's a pro tip coming. Speaker view, or active speaker view, is the default way that Zoom displays meeting participants. Whoever is speaking becomes the central focus for all other participants. Then, when another person starts speaking, that new person becomes the largest image and the focus for everyone in the meeting. Each participant can pin a person so that they become the focus regardless of who's talking. In other words, each participant can maintain their own view of the meeting and pin whoever they want to the active speaker area. However, pro tip 9, the host can choose one or more participants and spotlight them, which makes them the central focus for all other meeting participants. Click either the ellipsis button on the person you want to spotlight, or open the participants panel, click more, and spotlight for everyone. You can only spotlight participants who have their video enabled. Repeat this process and click Add Spotlight to spotlight additional people. You can, similarly, remove spotlights one by one, or click View and remove all spotlights at one time. Gallery View is the other view that all participants can select. It lets them see a grid of participants at the same time where each person appears as the same size. On a computer, you can see up to 25 by default, or up to 49 participants on a screen if you enabled that option. Devices with smaller screens like tablets and smartphones will see fewer participants in Gallery View. Each participant can drag tiles in the gallery, rearranging them to suit their own preferences. However, pro tip 10, as the meeting host, you can rearrange your own gallery view and project that view for all other participants. First, switch to Gallery View, then drag the tiles into the desired order. Click View, then follow host's video order. Participants who switch to Gallery View will see the gallery in the order that you've established. You can click View again and release video order to allow participants to change things to their own liking once more. Most of the time, in large meetings I've joined, the active speaker view and spotlight have been the preferred tools rather than the enforced gallery view order. Zoom meetings and webinars are similar to one another. However, meetings are designed to be more about collaboration and allow room for any participants to share screen, audio, or video, depending on the security settings established by the host. Webinars, on the other hand, are designed for the host and any panelist to run the meeting, while attendees act more like an audience. Webinars can also handle a larger number of participants, depending on the license type you have. The largest possible Zoom meeting can accommodate 1,000 attendees, while the largest possible Zoom webinar can accommodate up to 10,000. Zoom pricing is based on the number of hosts, number of maximum participants, and which add-ons you have purchased, such as the ability to connect to conference room bridges or telephone conference calling. If you've made it to this point in the video and haven't yet learned something new, let me know. I'll accept that as a personal challenge. Want to know more about Zoom? Here's a playlist. And do you have a tech question? If so, leave it in the comments. Comments influence the direction of this channel. Subscribe to get more videos like this. It's free. And if you know of anyone who could benefit by watching this video, tell them about it and send them a link. Thanks for watching.